ARK Survival Ascended already has more maps than most players will ever completely explore, but Studio Wildcard is nowhere near finished. Several enormous legacy maps are still waiting to receive their Ascended remasters, and we have entirely new aquatic worlds called Atlantis, the full Skyworld of Dragontopia, and the return of Genesis Part 2 and the Galaxy Wars expansion that could take players beyond the colony ship into an enormous outer space biome. Fjorda, Crystal Isles and Lost Island are still coming too, despite currently having no confirmed release date. Beyond those, the Legacy of Santiago is planned to bridge ARK Survival Ascended with ARK 2 by introducing and testing some of the sequel's new gameplay mechanics. Then before all of that, Estraos is preparing to receive one final island update as part of the major final update for the map. So today we're going to go through every major map, world and map expansion still planned for ARK Survival Ascended, and what each one is expected to introduce and how long we may be waiting for them. And if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe, and come and join us in the LoadedCrysis cluster for an entire cluster full of every single ASA maps and the new Bjarnheim map. Link to our Discord is down below. So today we are going to remember that it's important to separate confirmed information from expectations, especially when it comes to the Studio Wildcard release dates. They provided a roadmap covering major releases through 2027, but ARK's schedule has changed many times before. Several projects have confirmed target windows, while others are simply confirmed to remain in development without dates. So let's begin with the map closest to receiving new content, Estraos. Estraos itself is already available, but its final ever major update is expected to introduce a completely new island called Helanthos. Helanthos has been described as a medium-sized island featuring vast mountain ranges, large open landscapes, and plenty of new exploration opportunities. The expansion is expected to include additional underwater content, the Baratos, the new fire pig, and fixes for many other things from the Estraos bosses. There could be something much larger hidden beneath the map. Nakatis has previously talked about the underwater land, but it remains unclear whether this region will become accessible in the final update. It could also be an unfinished development space, scenery, or environment that Nakatis ultimately chose not to use. We will see what happens in the future until Nakatis announces it. The Genesis Galleon is also planned to arrive alongside the Estraos update, as we have explained before. The next major world we need to discuss is Dragontopia. Technically, Dragontopia has already begun rolling. Players can access its early content, creatures and dragon skill tree, including the Umbra and the Lumina. But this is not the finished version of the expansion. Dragontopia is eventually expected to grow into a complete Skyworld map, taking players into high altitude realm built around taming and mastering different dragons. Every dragon is intended to have its own taming method and behavior. Instead of using one repeated process, players will need to understand the personality and rhythms of each creature before earning the ability to ride it. The Dragon Skill Tree introduces a completely different progression system focused on strengthening the bond between survivor and dragon. Players can specialize abilities, improve movement, strengthen attacks, and develop defensive powers based on how they want to use their creature. We're also expecting specialized equipment, a draconic building set, incubator backpacks, and potion stations. Wildcard has confirmed that additional Dragontopia adventures are coming in later 2026, eventually building towards its complete world. One future creature has already been teased as an enormous, constantly hungry beast capable of inhaling almost anything standing in front of it, the Garganta. That includes enemies, allies, trees, bushes, and resources. The complete Dragontopia map therefore could feel very different from a traditional ARK environment. Rather than another island containing familiar beaches, forests and mountains, it's being developed as a high altitude fantasy world where progression centers around dragons. After Dragontopia, ARK's next completely original world is expected to take us in the opposite direction. Instead of traveling above the clouds, will be descending beneath the ocean. ARK Atlantis is currently planned as a paid aquatic-themed expansion created by Nakatus. We have very limited official information about its map, creatures and story, but the name makes its central theme extremely clear. Also, these maps, Dragontopia and Atlantis, are definitely not part of the story and are non-canon. Atlantis could provide ARK with its first full world designed primarily around underwater survival. Studio Wildcard have also said we could be seeing fully generated, can't say the word, oceans where things are going to be happening different for each map, which is exactly what we've wanted to see in the game before, considering that was the hope for the Genesis Ascended DLC for the underwater biome. Previous maps have contained large ocean areas and aquatic biomes, but land has almost always remained the primary focus. Genesis Part 1 came closest to giving ocean survival its own major identity, but that was only one biome with a simulated collection of environments. Atlantis has the opportunity to build its entire progression around the ocean. That could include submerged cities, deep trenches, underwater caves, new aquatic creatures, and environments where players must manage oxygen, pressure, and temperature. Exactly which of these features will appear kind of remains unknown to the community, so they should be treated as possibilities rather than confirmed systems. However, the technology introduced through Tides of Fortune could provide an important foundation. Tides of Fortune has added the improved water systems, ships, naval combat, and buildable vessels. The Galleon will push these systems even further by supporting enormous floating fortresses, and Atlantis could take everything Wildcard learns from ships and ocean physics and use it to create a much more ambitious aquatic world. Players may begin on the surface aboard a ship before gradually discovering what lies beneath it. The map could also give ARK's neglected ocean creatures a much larger role. The Mosasaur, the Tuso, the Basilosaurus, the Megalodon, and many other aquatic creatures are incredibly powerful. But players can complete large parts of most maps without ever needing them. A world built around ocean exploration would completely change that. Atlantis is currently planned with 2027 launch on Studio Wildcard's roadmap, but we still need a complete reveal and a final release date. Following Atlantis, we have one of the largest releases ever planned for ARK Survival Ascended. Genesis Part 2 Ascended is currently targeting a Q2 2020. That would be nice because it would already be out 2027. Atlantis was planned for Q1 2027, but as you know with ARK, it could always change, and it will launch alongside Bob's True Tales Galaxy Wars. The Genesis Part 2 map itself is planned as free content, and it will bring back the enormous Genesis colony ship, its contrasting rings, missions, asteroid fields, and some of the most powerful creatures in ARK. The original map contained the peaceful Eden Zone, and on one side, and Rockstar's corrupted environment on the other. Between them was Central Space Biome, containing asteroid fields that changed as the colony ship travelled through hyperspace. Genesis Part 2 introduced the Maywing, the Shadowmane, the Noglin, the Astrodelphis, the Void Worm, and the Textrider, alongside several ARK creature variants. The Ascended versions should rebuild the entire map using improved technology and visual systems available in ASA. However, Galaxy Wars is where this release becomes much more than a remaster, because Wildcard has described an enormous outer space biome taking the battle beyond the Genesis colony ship. Players are expected to gain access to starfighters, bombers, and capital ships alongside so many different planets to explore. The plan includes fast dogfights between smaller spacecraft and large-scale battles involving capital ships armed with massive main cannons. Wildcard has also discussed a local gravity system that would allow survivors to move freely inside a spacecraft while the entire vessel rotates or flips during combat. This means one tribe member could potentially pilot a capital ship while others move around inside, operate weapons, or prepare for battle. some of those individual crew roles it remain expectations rather than confirmed features, but the local gravity technology is intended to keep players standing normally inside of the ship regardless of its movement. Genesis Part 2 and Galaxy Wars could effectively add a second map beyond the traditional colony ship, because the original Genesis environment would exist inside the seed ship, while Galaxy Wars expands the playable area into the space surrounding it. The complete scale and functionality of these locations have of course not been revealed yet, nevertheless it has potential to become one of the largest playable environments in ARK history. After Genesis Part 2, we have the Legacy of Santiago. The Legacy of Santiago is currently planned as a story-driven expansion arriving in multiple parts beginning with Part 1. The expansion is intended to act as another bridge between ARK Survival Ascended and ARK 2. Rather than simply introducing another traditional map, Wildcard has plans to use it as a live testing ground for some of the riskier ARK 2 mechanics. That includes a new third-person melee combat system influenced by Souls-like games. Legacy of Santiago should allow Wildcard to test these mechanics with ARK's existing player base before committing them to the sequel. We don't know the final size of the structure of its world, and it could be a completely new map, a collection of story-focused locations, or an expansion built around a different progression format. Until Wildcard reveals more, it's safer to describe the Legacy of Santiago as a brand new story expansion rather than promise one enormous open map. Part 1 is currently associated with late 2027, giving Wildcard plenty of time to explain what it actually contains. Alongside these original expansions, 3 classic maps from ARK Survival Evolved are still waiting for their Ascended versions. The first is Fjorda. Fjorda is one of the largest and most popular maps ever released for ARK. Its central Nordic world is joined by separate realms inspired by Norse mythology, including Asgard, Jotunheim, and Vanaheim. Players can travel between these realms and explore enormous caves, collect runes, and fight several different bosses. Fjorda also introduced the Andrewsarchus, the Desmondus, and the Fenrir into the official version of ARK. And its Ascended remaster was previously placed with the dated roadmap alongside a new community-voted creature. However, the schedule has changed massively since then, and Fjorda currently does not have a reliable release date. Wildcard continues to say that the Legacy maps remain part of its plans, so there's no indication that Fjorda has been cancelled. Its position on the schedule is just simply unclear. And when Fjorda does arrive, Fjorda could become a very exciting map in its ASA form. Its icy mountains, enormous caverns, and mythology-inspired realms should benefit enormously from improved lighting, foliage, and environmental effects. Then we have Crystal Isles. Crystal Isles is a gigantic fantasy map recognized for its floating islands, enormous crystal formations, and brightly coloured environments. It is the map that introduced crystal wyverns, including blood, ember, and tropical variants, alongside the Tropio. Its Ascended return could completely transform some of its most distinctive environments. The floating islands could look incredible with modern cloud and lighting systems, while its crystal biomes should benefit from improved reflections and materials. Crystal Isles is still planned, but currently, as same as Fjorda, has no release window. That means we should not assume it will arrive during 2026 or even early 2027, and it remains one of ARK's confirmed future Legacy remastered, but Wildcard needs to provide a new schedule. And finally, we have The Lost Island. The Lost Island combines several different environments into one enormous map, including jungles, snowy mountains, deserts, volcanic areas, castles, and temples. It also introduced the Dinopithecus, the Cynomacrops, and the Amargasaurus. The Cynomacrops became one of most ARK's useful shoulder pets, allowing players to glide and gain height and move around the map much easier. Lost Island's Ascended versions should bring all those environments and creatures into ASA, and just like the other two, it currently has no confirmed release date. Fjorda, Crystal Isles, and Lost Island appear to have been pushed behind Wildcard's newer story expansions, engine upgrades, and premium content. That may be frustrating for players waiting for their favourite Legacy world, but Wildcard has continued to state that the upgraded maps remain part of ARK's future. The lack of date does not mean they've been cancelled, it simply means we'll be waiting much longer than originally expected. But anyway, the future of ARK always seems exciting, but most I'm looking for a performance update with 5.7, and maybe one day we will see all of these maps officially in the game. Thank you very much for watching, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.